This is my first opportunity to get into a Jaguar F-Type. Although I'm not going to drive the car today, I'm going to ride alongside Mike Cross, who is the guy who decides whether a Jaguar is really a fit car. These are late prototypes, and we're going to attack the roads that he developed the cars on, these Welsh roads up and down the hillsides just near Bala. So Mike, here we are in the V6. This car is was portrayed by us as the kind of baby Jaguar, but it's also roomy and rigid and a kind of well-founded car, isn't it?
Yeah, it has a very stiff aluminium structure, so you know all the building blocks are in place to do a proper sports car. The weight distribution is good, the wheelbase is shorter, got a very quick steering ratio, so I think the car is very responsive and very agile on roads like this. This is the V6S, so that's 380 horsepower, active dampers, active exhaust and limited slip differential, so it's a sort of the middle of the range, and it's actually my favourite. It's very sweet and very balanced to drive.
Tell us a bit about the steering.
I think a sports car is probably all about the steering, isn't it? It needs to have an immediacy of response, but it needs to be very faithful and linear as well. So, you know, I'm really pleased with where the guys have got the steering to on F-Type.
The thing I'm noticing is, because we're on this rather sinuous, relatively quick but fairly narrow Welsh road, that you're able to place the car very sweetly indeed. It doesn't seem to need a lot of fiddling. That's presumably a very, very much a Jaguar characteristic, you would say?
Yeah, we've spent a lot of time optimising the car on real roads. Been to race tracks as well, but I find these very narrow roads, you know, with stone walls, they force you to develop very precise, very accurate steering.
Yeah.
Which is why we evaluate the car on these roads.
Yeah. It doesn't seem excessively noisy. You hear the engine, plenty of engine, but it's also got long legs, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, I think this car had to deliver on Jaguar's DNA, but it's the most sporting impression, most sporting version. So we've tested on race tracks, tested on these roads, and I think it does that well. I think you're right, Steve.
Yeah, I get the feeling that even for the driver of lesser skill, shall we say, it's going to be a rewarding car because it'll feel agile and accurate.
Yeah, and I think its performance is also very accessible, so it's not an intimidating car to drive.
No. So, Mike, we've transferred to the V8. How is this going to be different?
The V8's faster than the V6. It's 495 horsepower, plays 380, more torque. Powertrain sound quality is different. But we've tried to give the car the same fundamental agile character, but it's quite a lot faster.
Great. I do love the way your backside is 2/3 or 3/4 of the way back towards the rear wheel, so you are, you know, the rear contact patches have a big effect on what you're feeling, don't they?
What we try and do is tune the car so it feels like you're at its yaw centre, so the car turns around.
Right.
It feels as though the car
turns around you.
Turns around where you're sat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds like subtle stuff. How do you do that? Is it a matter of geometry? Or?
Yeah, and particularly the way the rear suspension works. So about tuning. It's about getting the front and rear in phase, but the way the rear suspension works is particularly important.
Right, I see. To get to the top of the performance of a V8, you would need to be a pretty serious peddler, I think.
Yeah, and I think you need some space as well.
Yeah. But I mean, still that elastic performance and.
Yeah, and it's the mid-range performance that's that's just so strong and so.
Yeah. I'm interested that it still rides with that, without any pitch at all. seems very...
Yeah, we've worked hard to make sure the car is flat, because I think you can tolerate some vertical movement,
Yeah.
but pitch is really uncomfortable.
It's not... I take your point though earlier that the V6 is absolutely not a poor relation, it's just different, isn't it? Because some people, I think, will prefer the V6. I mean, I think I might, but...
And I think, you know, at work some prefer the V8, and...
Yeah. That's quite an interesting observation, that the V8 feels as though, the V6, sorry, feels as though you can kind of thrash it.
Yeah.
Whereas this is, you know, it is a really seriously fast car. I mean, any 500 horsepower in a fairly compact two-seater, it's just bound to be quick. If I had to choose, I think I'd probably choose the V6 over the V8. The V8 is an amazingly fast car and sort of hugely quick, consumes the straights, but the V6 is just a little bit more of a precision instrument. But then you shouldn't be deciding before you get behind the wheel, so I'm looking forward to doing that too.